Alright guys, today I'm gonna show you a timer I made yesterday. And you're probably like, what does that even mean? Well, I mean this. This is a timer I made with a EV3 or Lego Mindstorms kit, and I thought it would be nice to show you guys, or more of showing you guys how to make it, and perhaps how you can code it yourself and actually have one at your house. And I had a timer shipping to me, but it never came, so if that comes, I might do an unboxing video on that, but for now, we're stuck with this thing. So I actually made a few versions of this code, and let's zoom in so we can see. So right here we see timer 1-4 and timer 1-3 copy, which shouldn't be there, and that's the timer, that's the original timer. So the one I'm gonna show you guys is timer 1-4, but I'm gonna teach you guys how to make the timer, the normal timer, which is the simplest version. So if I go into timer 1-4, right here it beeps for some reason, and we see there's 0, which is our time right now. And the average is basically the average of all of our times, and AO5, average of 5 nearest times, AO12, average of 12 nearest times, and S deviation, well, just go search that up because I can't explain it. So this is actually a touchless timer because I don't have 2 of these things, so I can't make 2 of those touchpad things. So right here we have a color sensor, and right here we have an IR sensor. So if I put this down, so if I put my hands here and here, the light will turn red and then green, signaling that I can start, and then I'll lift my hands and you can see that the timer is starting. And when it's flashing red, it means it's timing. And then we can put our hands down to stop the timer right here. So I got 7.083, which is, I never got that score before because I average around like 20. But to clear it out, we can press the reset button, which is the touch sensor right here. We click it and it resets it back to 0. And now we can see that our S deviation is 0 and our average is 7.083, which is the time we got before. And now we can do it again. And put our hands down again. And now I got 4.082, and then that will go into the average, and the S deviation will also change. Now, if I reset it again, and then time myself again, and say I got this time, which I like, so I'll save it by pressing the center button. It'll beep, and then I can click this button to clear it out. So after I press it, it will save into the system, and then if I press the right button to go to the next page, it will say save times, and it will say the time I saved. Now I can go back by pressing this button. This is basically my timer, and now I'll go over a little bit about the design and how you can make it yourself. So I'm going to exit out the program, and let's get on. This is a very bad design, but I'm sure you guys can somehow improvise it to make it better. So we have 2 13 stud rods here and here, and they're mainly just for supporting these 2 sensors. And we have this thing just to support it, and they're not on the same side because it's not even, and if I put it on the other side, it's still not even, and so I just put it on 2 different sides just for no reason. And I have 2 sensors here, and they're connected by these little pieces that change the direction of your studs with an axle here and 2 pegs here. And I connected the axle onto the sensor like this, and I put the sides with the 2 pegs connecting onto this 13 stud rod, like that. But with the color sensor, I actually had to use a longer axle because you need a spacing here, or else it can't sense your hands that well. So I'm gonna put this back. And here, with this touch sensor, I basically did the same with my color sensor. So there's a little spacer here, and this is just the touch sensor with 2 longer pegs that you can connect really anywhere you like. I sometimes like it on this side like this, but usually it's easier to press when it's up here. So it depends on what you're more used to. So I'm going to go over to my computer and record a little bit of code, and I'm going to do a little voiceover, and I'll see you there. Alright, I'm back. So here we can see our code. This code is actually for the more complicated version, with the ones where you can save the times and stuff, and with better timing. So I believe it has better timing, I'm not sure. So if I switch over to timer, which is the simpler version that has that doesn't have the save time thing, we can see that it's actually, it looks kind of complicated, but it's actually quite simple. So I'll go over this really quick, and so here we have this block which actually controls the paging, which will be used in the future versions, but really we can just take this out of here and put it here, right? But I'm going to put it in here just for the sake of doing it. And now this controls the reset button. So if start timer is not true, then if the touch sensor is pressed, we're going to set timer to 0, set the light to an orange pulse and clear the display, and write your time. And then this is times is where we keep all of the times, and so we can calculate the averages and stuff. And we also set the light to the orange pulse. We're going to set timer to 0 when we start, and set start timer to true to false. And we're forever going to write timer at 1 with font large black, right? That's pretty self-explanatory. And if start timer is not true and timer equals 0, then if this is true, which means if my two hands are on the sides, now we're going to start this code called pre-timer. Now what pre-timer is all the stuff that actually controls what's before the timer, which means the red and green light flashes. So I'm going to set pre-timer to 0 and repeat until not my hands are there. So basically, if my hands are not there, then it's going to wait 0.1 seconds and change pre-timer by 0.1. Now what I'm going to do here is if pre-timer equals 1 or pre-timer is less than 1, then I'm going to set the status light to red, which means I'm going to see the light on the center brick is going to turn red. And if pre-timer is more than 1, set status light to green, which means the little light is going to be green. And now after I lift my hands, if pre-timer is less than 1 or pre-timer is equal to 1, which means the status light is still red, as we can see up here, then it's going to set the light to orange pulse, which means it's ready to start the timer again and stop this stack, which is the pre-timer stack. Else, which means if we lifted our hands and the light is green, we're going to wait until our hands are lifted and set start timer to true, which we're going to use later, or I might have said it before already where its importance comes in. And we're going to start timer and stop the stack. Now start timer is another function as is pre-timer, which we called here. So start timer, what it does is it's going to clear the display, set status light to red pulse, which means, as we saw before, it's timing and it's pulsing red. And we're going to write timer at 1 with font large black. So what we're going to do is repeat until this is true again, which, as we remembered before, is when we put our hands down. So we're going to wait 0.01 seconds and change timer by 0.01. And then we're going to write timer at 1 with font large black. Now keep in mind, this timer is actually slow. So I'm going to get to how to fix that right here. So why is it slow, you ask? Because when we're starting, the system actually has to run other things. So it's not exactly 0.01 seconds. So if we go here, we will actually use the timer function, which we see here on our sensors. So we see the timer. Now, when we start timer, we'll clear the display, reset the timer, set timer to 0, and set status light to red pulse. Well, the timer, what it actually does is it's a variable that keeps on increasing really fast in real life seconds. So we repeat until our hands are down, and we'll set our timer to timer and write timer times 1000 and round it and divide it by 1000. Now what that really does is round timer to the thousandths place. And what we want to do, thousandths place, we wanted to write that at 1:1 with font large black. Now I'm gonna go back to timer because there's more stuff there that we need to actually pay attention to. So we go here, and after we put our hands down, we'll set the status light to orange pulse, which means it's ready to time again, and add timer to times. So we can actually go back here, and it's still going to be add timer to times because we're actually setting timer to timer. Now after we do that, we're going to set start timer true to false, which means we're not timing, and we're going to stop this stack. Now this stuff, we don't actually need to pay attention to this because this is actually finding the S deviation, which is the standard deviation, and you can pause the video here and recreate this if you want. I'm not going to explain how it works because it will be really complicated. And then this is where I actually write the averages and the standard deviation, which we're also not going to pay attention to. And this is the loop that keeps on repeating this part, which will refresh the time and S deviation. Now if you would like, you can also put a clear display here, but that will actually glitch it out a little because it's like always deleting and redrawing, so I suggest like not doing this. And then at last we have to find average. I think that's the end. Yeah, that's the end. We have to find average, which will find the average of things. And again, you can pause the video and recreate this in your own EV3 code if you want. And if you don't want to do that, then you're all good. You just don't have to do this part, and this part, and also this part. All the rest, basically, I explained. It's pretty easy. And in the timer 1:4, things actually get a little more complicated because you can save the times, and what is this? You can get rid of that because it saves the times, and it also has better standard deviation calculating because I believe this standard deviation is wrong. Oh, so if you actually did the standard deviation code, you have to replace the standard deviation with this code. So pause the video right now if you want to do that. And also replace the average with this code if there actually is a difference. So you can also pause the video right now. And other than that, that's pretty much it. And then there's also a thing where you can switch pages, which is right here. But I'm not going to get into that in this video. If this video gets enough views and likes, I might explain how this more complicated version works. And other than that, that's all, guys. I'll go back to my table where I usually record things and wrap it up. And I hope you guys learn something about coding or EV3s. And I hope you guys can make this. Alright, now I just wanted to say a really quick goodbye and see you in the next video. And at the ending, I might do some quick solves on my Pyraminx using this timer. Mainly using a Pyraminx because it'll take too long to use the 3x3, and I wanted to get multiple solves so you guys can perhaps see the AO5 in action, but probably not the AO12, but I'm sure that works. And I'm also not going to twist the corners because for the same speed reason. And so bye, see you in the next video, and I'll get on with my time-lapse solves. Subscribe to my channel down below and smash that like button if you want more videos like this one. I will be looking at the comments for my next cube tutorial.